We had the opportunity to have Ali in our executive panel session last night, and it was really enlightening to hear from her and her perspective in some of the main topics that we've been talking about is that achieving tangible and measurable risk reduction. So this is going to be a great opportunity to hear about what Splunk is doing in that area. So welcome, Ali.
Well, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today. First off, I promise everyone I won't make this a vendor pitch. So today I'll be focusing more on the technologies that I want to talk about, SIEM and SOAR, and scaling security operations with them. So my name, as Kimberly introduced me, still is Ali Espinosa. I lead the security product strategy practice at Splunk. Splunk for the win, that's because, as I was telling Kimberly just a few minutes ago, I've been working in the industry for some time and seeing how much fun the Splunk guys are having with their one-liners and their company culture, and thinking, you know what, I should have just as much fun as these guys are having. I should better join Splunk, and since then, it's been a fantastic decision. However, before that, my career guidance software, that's now open text, Nuix, and sector that is now with Palo Alto Networks, focusing mostly on security analytics, endpoint security, and cyber forensics. And the accent is from Puerto Rico and California, so there you go, you got a combination here. So bear with me as I go through this today. I can go speak a little fast, but I'll be mindful that this is being streamed live. So before I begin, my legal team will not let me say a word without this. And this basically allows me to talk about very controversial topics like alien invasion and reincarnation, if you want to. No, and be covered. No. This is more just, I guess, legalese to let you know that if you were to make any purchasing decisions, base them on the information that is available today. And not today in this session, just today in general, right? So SIEM and SOAR, today I'm going to cover three things. I'm going to focus on how SIEM and SOAR, the combination of these two technologies, and I'll explain what SOAR is in case you're wondering. They help accelerate your detection and response workflows. They scale your resources, and they optimize your security operations. So I'll start with a bit of an overview of security operations today, and I'll go over this pretty lightly because the reality is that you probably know your security operations and your challenges better than we do in the vendor side, although we do talk to many of you, so we have a lot of understanding across organizations of all sizes, but it would be a bit disrespectful for me to tell you what problems you have. But this is what we're seeing across our customers. First, they start with their basic security stack, right? No security team today, or no security team that is trying to keep up with the cybersecurity war today is not operating without a firewall, with our intrusion detection system or intrusion prevention, with a namepoint-based security system, web application firewall, advanced malware forensics, malware analysis, and malware detection. So that's the starter kit for most organizations today. The challenge is that all of those devices issue an alert. And we're all very familiar with the concept of alert fatigue, so I won't beat on that, right? But the reality is, yeah, they all issue an alert, but that's fine because you have your team. You have your tier 1 analysts in place, you have your tier 2 analysts in place. They're able to respond to those alerts and mitigate those, and then take action, right? Set up some sequence of actions that can be executed via the same tools that you began with, right? So that's the workflow today. However, as we mentioned, alert fatigue, there's a wide amount of alerts taking place, right? We were coding last night some numbers, around 3,000 per second, right? So 3,000 alerts per second, imagine, this is for a specific organization that was speaking at this event last night. Imagine being able to scale to address all of them. This is where we envision, other things coming into play. So the first thought is let's scale our team. We need more people, right? I haven't met an organization that has told me we have so many people on our team. In fact, do you have any openings because we want to offload some of us, So the expertise is needed. Challenge is the expertise is not, entry-level expertise. There's a lot of things that need to be, part of this security analyst team, especially based on the focus of the tier 1 analysts, the people that separate the wheat from the chaff, the tier 2 analysts, the people that focus on the incident response. And you start looking at this. I actually got some help putting together this list, but you'll see that I focus on the areas of security knowledge, computer networking, some of the things that you can get out of school if you have a computer science degree, more on the computer networking and command line familiarity. But there's also some, this is not as powerful, but there's also some traits and some characteristics that you really need to have in a security analyst, right? You have to have over there at the bottom, critical thinking, the ability to make those decisions, see a situation, engage correctly, creativity and curiosity to dig into a problem until you find a solution. Communications and writing, there's so many reports that you had to write in order to present this to the board, in order to put this in front of the C-suite. So this expertise, it's critical in order to scale your team. Challenge, and as we are all aware, security people are hard to find, right? And I quote this stat from the Cybersecurity Venture Cybersecurity Jobs Report. 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs by 2021, right? And that's growing at a 75% year over year. So again, a challenge that can be mitigated with people, but the people are not there. And it's forcing organizations to prioritize. It's forcing organizations to choose what to focus on. And just think about that in other terms, right? Imagine having 2 kids and thinking, I'm going to pick one of them and I'm going to send them to school. The other one, sorry, we can't afford it. We can't scale, right? That would be a recipe for failure for that kid. And so you shouldn't be forced to choose. You shouldn't be forced to prioritize. You should be able to scale to meet and address all of these threats. So on my way here, I was watching the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, and I was putting together, applying some last touches to the presentation. So I decided to name this or title this slide "Under Pressure." So for everyone who's a Queen fan, Under Pressure, David Bowie, Freddie Mercury. So most of the organizations today, most of the roles are really feeling the pressure from the board. The board really focus on, keep us out of the headlines. We don't want to land there. You got the CISO, and if you were there last night, we were talking about how most companies actually fare pretty well after a major breach over time, right? You see some impact, some stock plummeting for a little bit, but then over time, it all comes back to normal and they continue to be okay. However, the C-suite got cleared out, and the CISO was the first one out. And then that CISO is having a hard time finding their next gig because they're associated to that major breach. So that CISO is really compelled to keep their job, and that's the pressure they're feeling, right? Manager is saying, I need more people, like I expressed, and the analyst is saying, I need a vacation. So you got all that pressure coming from everyone to really address this problem. And we don't have enough people to fix it, so what do we do? This is where we see some of the technologies that I mentioned earlier that I'll describe today coming into play. So to optimize the security operations workflow that I explained earlier, we see SIEM being able to tackle part of this equation, and we see SOAR being able to address the other one. I'll explain. So if you are not familiar with the concept of SIEM, congratulations and welcome to the industry, because it's pretty much one of the more commonly used and widely known technologies. However, I'll break it down right now because that technology has gone through some evolution over the years. The traditional SIEM typically focus on, say, security monitoring, built-in detections. I'm going to go into alert management and incident investigation. Aggregating all of those alerts from all of those tools and being able to do that, sifting away from chaff and understanding, okay, this is really important. These are duplicates, and let's streamline them. But I wanted to highlight these two: machine learning-led behavioral analysis and entity risk scoring. Now, those are capabilities that you wouldn't find on a traditional SIEM, that as technology evolves, that's becoming more prevalent and more needed. So for that, I'll use this diagram. So traditional SIEM, or even the tools that are plugged into a SIEM, are really going around vetting alerts and incidents based on a good-bad system, right? It matches this thing that I know it's bad, therefore it's bad. Black, it's in this case, right, in this diagram. Or it's mentioned, it doesn't seem like it matches anything that I've already identified as bad, it's not bad, right? So that's really correlating and running rules across all of the data, and it's matching. That's issuing an alert, that's thrown into the command center. In this case, it would be a SIEM or any tool that you're using that is using this type of analysis, right? Now, the world, however, is not black or just white, right? There's a lot of gray. That's the unknown. And that's what we see machine learning being able to do. Ingesting all of that data, looking through all of it, and seeing, hey, there's some patterns here that are indicating that something could be taking place, that it's out of the ordinary. It's not telling you there's really, this is an alert, but it's just there's evidence of suspicious activity, you should look into it. That is sending that insight to the SIEM, and then together with the information from the very binary bad or good correlation rules from the tools, along with the machine learning, being able to drive that intelligence to understand what's going on and enabling you to take action. The power of machine learning is that without it, right, you would have humans and additional team members. We would require those resources in order to make sense of all of that data, your data scientists to understand all of it. And when you have such vast amounts of data, you would need that many resources in order to make sense of all of it. So machine learning is helping scale that resource in order to see things that are not clearly evident. Think of it, this happens often, working at 3 in the morning, but after 5 failed login attempts, something should be suspicious, right? It's not a typical time of day. Apparently can't remember my password. Am I suspicious? Maybe I'm doing my job. Maybe it's just it's 3 in the morning, I forgot. But maybe I'm not. So I want a system to let me know, hey, this is possibly potentially dangerous, and you should look into this. So with that, now SIEM augmented by the machine learning, which is the user and entity behavior analytics technology that most of you have heard, or UEBA. Now you have a more robust solution that not only ingests the data and alerts from the endpoint and networking and monitoring and detection tools, but then applies that in machine learning to that ingested data to find those patterns to then uncover those hidden threats. Another part of this is pretty interesting, right? So since you have a lot of indicators and things that could be potentially malicious, you probably want to know, hey, how potentially malicious is this? Is this Allie working again at 3 in the morning and forgetting her password, or is this the first time, right? So it applies a risk score so that you know, okay, so the chances of this being accurate is pretty high, right? And not only that, the chances of this being accurate and touching your crown jewels, your critical value data, is also pretty high. So take care of this first. And so that risk scoring, it's only able with the intelligence that you gain by using a machine learning-based user and entity behavior analytics solution as part of a SIEM. So yeah, and then by correlating the incoming alerts and removing those duplicates, you really have a much more streamlined workflow, right? And then keeping that eye on the security posture across all of the systems that are sending you all of those alerts. So SOAR, finally getting the word, is not about SOAR muscles, but it's definitely preventing them from all of the analysts that are working on these very repetitive tools. So security, orchestration, automation, and response. The end goal of SOAR is to accelerate that incident response workflow and being able to scale that team. So there are a lot of solutions out there. We listed them, saying you have a problem, you have a problem, you have a problem. But then it's all about the people to solve those problems, right? And that's when it becomes a little bit more challenging. So SOAR looks to be able to scale that team and to do the job that's not being done, to allow you to not have to say, hey, I need to only prioritize these threats because I don't have the bandwidth to care for the rest, right? To send both kids to college. And college, by the way, just, I'm very aware that not everyone has gone to college and has grown to be very successful. So that's just an example for those of us who value the education. So accelerate incident response, scale your team. So incident validation and triaging, that's the first part, right? Making sure that those alerts that are coming in, are there real events? Are there real threats? Or are they false positives? Imagine the frustration of an analyst who spends so much time trying to determine if an event is a real event or a false positive, only to find out it is a false positive. Yay for the organization! You're not, you're not at risk. But there goes all the time that you spend trying to chase that, right? And then doing it all over again because there's nothing that's helping streamline that process of incident validation. And then prioritizing those so those can get addressed first, but that doesn't mean that the ones that are prioritized at a lower level don't get addressed at all. So once you have that intelligence that is extracted from all that data that's coming into a solution like a SOAR technology, it's able to guide you into what to do next. And it's even able to take that action. So identify what's the best method of response, and then do it in a way that you don't have to even be bothered at 3 in the morning if that's the time when that event took place. The orchestration of security tools is also a very convenient part. You have all of those tools. They're not talking to each other. They're all sending you the information. You have SIEM funneling them in. But then once you have to take action, you have to go back to all the different tools in order to take the necessary actions. That is also the job of orchestration, being able to make sure that those tools are talking to each other and to the SOAR technology, SOAR platform, to make sure that there's actions taking place without human involvement. It's providing you some guidance along the way with the mission, and then there's this concept of playbooks that I wanted to touch on. So here we're seeing an example of a playbook that we talk about very much as Splunk. We use it as our example, and you can see that it's basically a decision map for all of your tools to know what to do when. There are a variety of incidents and events that in order to know what's going on, in order to validate it, you pretty much have to follow the same steps. You need to look into Active Directory and see who was logged in at that time, what emails came in, what web activity took place. And so if you already know those steps and you program the technology to look those steps, you're basically relieving those tasks from a very professional, very knowledgeable Tier 1 analyst that would rather be doing something that's a little bit more challenging and interesting to them. So you have this step, and also would rather not be doing it at 3 in the morning, right? So this tool is working for you 24/7 and really automatically be able to take action the moment that an incident takes place. By playbook, so basically I mean the prescriptive collection of repeatable queries, again, security event data sources that lead to the incident and detection, and response workflow. So with SOAR, the optimization of the security operations workflow takes advantage of being able to, again, automate those repetitive tasks that then force multiply the team efforts. So now before you needed to have a team to address all of them, now you have that team focus on more critical items and then let the automation do that the moment the alert comes in. You can definitely execute those automated actions in seconds versus hours, and I'll walk you through one specific example of a company that was able to reduce that drastically, that time to respond. It uses that professional intelligence to support decision making. So the problem with, say, for example, taking a remediation action and doing something wrong is that most of those actions are irrevocable, right? Once you deleted that thing, it's gone. And so what happens when whatever process was needed to be remediated is a critical process that is driving your transactions, your business servers. You really need to make sure you have some information before you were to take that decision. On the remediation side, we typically advise organizations to let the automation focus on the response. When it comes to remediation, get a human involved so that you have time to say, get a backup server, get everything moved, and then take the remediation step. But even that intelligence that the SOAR system platform can help you gather the time of that initiated action will let you be able to make that decision and know what steps to take. And the last, definitely coordinating the complex workflows across all of the security operations. So at Splunk, we use a concept called the OODA loop. And it's a concept that got started in the US Air Force. And it was basically a fighter pilot trying to explain their thinking process as they're piloting a plane and going at 1,000,000 miles per hour and thinking, I need to first of all see what's going on, understand, not only see it, now understand, okay, this is not my fellow pilot from the Air Force, this is the enemy. Then be able to make a decision, I'm going to have to take this action and then take the action, right? So it works on a loop because when you're in the middle of war, you're having to make that decision over and over. Similarly, for the security workflow, we see that working similarly where you observe the activity that's taking place in the enterprise. You make the analysis of all of that data with a solution like SIEM, and then you make the decision and take the action with SOAR. And at Splunk, we say that the company that's able, or the security operations center, the security team that's able to go through this loop the fastest is the security operations center that's winning. And it's not necessarily that companies are in competition to see whose security team is operating faster, but it's definitely a downside if you're not able to stay on top of your entire security operations workflow. So, and this happened last night when we were talking about this. There were multiple people talking about automation, and some people wondering, hey, what's going to happen with my staff? And so if you're thinking, machine learning, automation, orchestration, are we talking about robo takeover here? Are we going to replace everyone and then this skills shortage problem is going to go away by virtue of machines? So I'd say it is not the robo takeover. It's going to help address the areas that you are not able to address today. So you don't even have the staff to work on that. It doesn't exist today. Technology is helping replace it. And I usually use this example. Commercial washing machine didn't become popular until the 1950s. Everyone was doing washing by hand. My mom, who was born in 1951, had to do it by hand until finally the washing machine came home and was able to use that to streamline her laundry, right? So because the washing machine was invented, do you think that housewives and even it's 2019, dads, kids, everyone is not is out of a job? They're no longer doing their job? No, it's just streamlining. They're now giving them more time to then do things after, to take care of other matters. It's making sure that you have more laundry clean, right? It's helping you scale. It's augmenting you. It's helping you focus on other things. So that doesn't mean that your role is out. It just means that you're doing it much more efficiently. And in fact, we envision new roles in security operations as a result of a shift from manual work to more automated work. We envision these two roles, first one being the security content developer, and this is the professional that's focusing on developing algorithms and dashboards and analytics and playbooks that are helping tune the the security workflow that is now machine generated, machine driven. And then we have the automation engineer that is helping orchestrate all of those tools. And as new investments come in, or new products change, versions change, upgrades, it's helping make sure that all of those tools are integrated seamlessly, and the orchestration is working pretty fine. And we also anticipate now 2020, we talk about it here as if it's the Jetsons in the 50s and talking about the future. 2020 is actually next year. But in the future, pretty soon, we envision that 90% of the tier 1 analyst work will be automated, and their responsibilities will shift into optimizing the detection and the response logic. When you think of where the time is going today when it comes to tier 1 analyst work and those tedious activities that are very prone to human error, because when it's repetitive, you're just not even fully invested. And you have that streamlined, you're giving that tier 1 analyst the challenge to do something a lot more exciting and more interesting, and really optimizing an entire workflow. You can start seeing a more engaged security workforce, and preliminary surveys and questionnaires that we've done have actually returned some positive feedback around being able to have a more challenging, more enjoying role as part of the security workforce. So who's SIEM and SOAR for? I'm aware that in Canada, for example, especially in Vancouver, I was talking to several folks, the average security team size for the average company can range from 5 to 15 people. So is SIEM and SOAR for me? Absolutely. So at Splunk, we have this concept of the security nerve center. And it's basically the ability to streamline your entire workflow in a way that it's working for you rather than you working for it, right? And we talk about this journey to the nerve center, and we create the steps to get there, to get to that point where your security operations workflow is working for you. And it starts really at the basics. You have a specific problem, you want to address it, so you typically have someone making sure that every time there's a situation taking place in the enterprise, they're able to look at it and resolve it, fine. Now you're having that happening across multiple domains. Now you may need that person to scale, or you may want them not to have to focus on every incident one at a time, but to be able to do it one for many incidents that are taking place that are all connected. So now you may start looking for solutions that help you scale. We got the next one. When you're establishing your security operations, you're a little bit more formal. You need to really have a practice because of the volume of incoming threats and alerts, because you're exposed, you're having to protect the business. After that, you're moving to something that's a lot more collaborative, something that's learning from every segment of the security operations workflow, where you're taking those learnings and really ingesting them back in so that you have a more well-operated security operations center. And then you reach that nirvana, that nerve center for security, where you are basically your security operations workflow is working for you. We envision SIEM to come into play, the solve across multiple domains, establish security operations. When you're at that scale, SIEM is a critical investment to make. We're envisioning SOAR to become more critical in your operations when you are at the established security operations, collaborative solve, and taking you all the way to the nerve center for security. So depending on where you are in your maturity model of your security team, there are investments that make more sense. Also trying to help you scale. So if that's a challenge that you have right now, then automation typically sounds like something very enticing, and just trying to generate big results from your small teams. So with that in place, I wanted to just show you a few examples. So City of Los Angeles, where I spent about 16 years of my life, they have about 40 different agencies. They have about 35,000 employees and about 15 million incidents per day. And the challenge is that every agency was running their own tools, they had their own security teams. So trying to streamline all of that was a problem without any tool that would allow them to have visibility across everything that was taking place. And so they invested in a SIEM, ingested all of that, and then gained agency-wide, City of Los Angeles-wide security posture visibility in order to understand and gain knowledge from what's going on in different agencies, and then alert the other agencies, hey, we're seeing this happening and you may be next. So now the city is operating a lot more efficiently. We have AFLAC. I cannot say AFLAC without sounding like Gilbert Gottfried, I kid you not. So AFLAC. And they are automating threat intelligence, or they're doing a threat intelligence system by using the SIEM and by using that machine learning capability that I mentioned. So what they do is they want to ingest all these threat intelligence databases. And to be quite honest, there's so many out there. I have companies that are signed up for about 150 of them, between purchase and then little different ones that they find on the dark web and from vendors. So ingesting all of that threat intelligence data and applying machine learning to not only being able to vet incoming threats run them across all those threat intelligence systems, but also gain insight from the machine learning and seeing, hey, this is suspicious activity. They built a solution using a SIEM and UEBA platform to then be able to have a threat intelligence system that centralized all of them. They have 50 million subscribers worldwide. They're really invested in keeping that data protected and secure. So being the victim of security events was a priority for them to address. And with this TIS, with this threat intelligence system, they'll be able to address it a lot faster. And then last is Blackstone. So Blackstone is one of the leading private investment firms in the world. And they are using a solution like a SOAR technology to automate malware incident response. So we're getting hit by about 40 malware events per day. And it was taking them about 45 minutes to even look into an incident. That has gone down to 30 seconds or less. And that is by allowing the SOAR platform to automate that process, to scale their team, and to be able to address all of those events that they were getting a day the moment that the alert came in. All right, so before I wrap up, today I promised to talk to you about 3 things. How SIEM and SOAR accelerate your detection and response workflow, how they help you scale your resources, and how they help you optimize your security operations. So I think we have some time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Also, if you want to see or you want to see these products in action, we have our team downstairs. They can schedule with you demos and anything, meetings or anything else. Or talk to you a little bit more about the products that we have. I promise to keep this pretty technology agnostic, but Splunk would be more than happy to walk you through those. Any questions, anything? Yes, sir. It is, right now, it is a product that works with our SIEM. It's part of Splunk, though. Yes. And they work seamlessly, so might as well be the same solution. It's just we give the option.
How difficult is the implementation?
So, well, we work with a network of partners, and we have our own implementation team. So it is as easy or as difficult, I guess, as you want it to be, because we have the experts to help walk you through it. Ideally, we work with you to really configure these systems the way you need them to be configured. And since there are, some of them are brand new technologies, right? SOAR it's newer in the more emerging in the security space, then it's helpful to kind of show you what these tools are capable of doing so that you're taking complete advantage of them. And for that, we really recommend a joint deployment process. As far as time, it all depends also on what you're trying to do with that. If you have any ideas as far as your size and everything that you want to plug into that, we can definitely work on giving you some estimates based on that.
For example, the one about the city of Los Angeles, how long was the project?
I don't have the information exactly about that, but yeah, I can definitely find that out for you. Yeah, And I mean, at the same time, take into account 40 different agencies trying to streamline all of that data and all of those agencies that are working with different tools. It wasn't necessarily a 2-week project, that's for sure. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So it works with existing Splunk. I'm guessing it utilizes the Splunk forwarder, so it doesn't have to have any additional agents installed, right? On end units, on end units.
So no, it works with Splunk, but however, if you want to have, I'm thinking you're talking about the SOAR solution, right?
Right.
Okay, so but however, if you wanna have it ingest data from your endpoint security solution, your network, everything, you leverage that information to get it in. But yes, it works with Splunk seamlessly, and so ideally you're just using the forwarder from Splunk.
So does it work with Windows Event Collector?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
Any other questions? Alrighty, well, thank you so much for your time. Again, we're downstairs if you have any other questions, and yeah, thanks again.